Here is my ID. Look her in the eyes. When you see her face, what's the first idea that pops into your brain? Is it an icon? Is it a tragedy? Is it a painter? While this is all true, that's not her complete story. Frida Kahlo is an iconic painter due to her self-portraits. She studied in Mexico's National Preparatory School, where she was exposed to many ideas. But being the rebellious person she was, she went to discover the world on her own. Like many of you, Frida Kahlo experienced and overcame her severe mental health issues, and she shows how painting can be an outlet for our deep emotions. I've done intense research on Frida Kahlo by reading a biography on her, journals, and articles. That's why I can tell you that Frida Kahlo transformed her chronic pain and emotions into artwork that not only shows her resilience, but her heritage, but also a political legacy that was immortalized by the Chicano movement. You will be informed of all of this through the history of Frida Kahlo's adolescence, her experience as an adult that influenced her artwork, and her exploration of her heritage and political impacts. The beginning. Frida Kahlo was born in July 6, 1907. She temporarily went to school. However, she soon had to leave due to severe health issues. As art historian Jaén Herrera wrote in the book, A Biography of Frida Kahlo, at age 6, she contracted polio and was isolated for 9 months. Even though she was isolated, even though the sickness affected her leg, she still continued on. Arthur Lucero wrote how in New York Times article, she would layer multiple socks to hide her withered leg, but children would still call her peg leg. Even though she got bullied, she would continue to play and start the path of building a resilient personality. However, she was in a horrific car bus accident in 1925. In the journal, art journalist Nancy Durant wrote in her article how Frida was flung out of the bus and a metal handrail projected into her pelvis, and it broke many of her bones. Due to this, she had to be in lots of surgeries, and while she was recovering, she utilized this time to discover painting. In the book of Frida Kahlo's biography, it says, a direct quote from Frida, "I was bored as hell. I stole my father's oil paints, and my mother ordered me an easel. Because I couldn't sit upright. And that's when I started painting." Although her ailments is what got her into painting, it was her emotions and that were depicted onto the canvas. That's why the next point is about her relationship with others as well as her relationship with herself. She married Diego Rivera in 1929, where they were initially very enamored with one another. However, their relationship became unhealthy, especially as they returned from the U.S., where the relationship was extremely rocky. As Herrera mentions in Frida's biography, Diego Rivera and Frida returned to live in separate housing. Diego lived in the pink house, while Frida lived in the smaller blue house. Both houses were connected to one another using a bridge. This shows their complicated relationship, and they lived in this house all throughout their marriage, divorce, and remarriage. Frida's turbulent marriage with Diego was depicted in her artwork. She put her pain into canvases. Frida demonstrated her pain in her artwork, and there is an example by Durant who wrote an article stating that this painting called Memory was a reaction to finding out Diego had an affair with Frida's sister. Of course, Frida showed this pain through a detached heart, and even though her relationship with Diego Rivera caused her a lot of pain, as mentioned before, she never really wanted to leave him. But her love life wasn't the only thing she depicted. She also showed her medical experience in her artwork, an example being the Henry Ford painting. As in her biography states, the painting depicts her hemorrhaging onto the sheets where her belly is still swollen from the pregnancy. This shows her pain and desire for motherhood, as well as depicting her experience from a miscarriage in an era where talking about miscarriages was considered extremely taboo. Nonetheless, she painted herself in a very raw state and without censoring a single detail. Along with her emotions, she also depicted her heritage in her artwork. A big part of her legacy was reclaiming her heritage, and although Frida was thought to believe to wear these indigenous dresses to please her husband, that's not the complete truth. As an art journal from 1990s, Janice Hallen wrote that this kind of dress was possibly the Zapoteca women represent economic independence and freedom that possibly appealed to Frida, hence why she may have worn these kind of outfits. Additionally, in her artwork, she explores her own identity, and an example of this being Two Fridas. It shows her complicated heritage, and she shows her Spaniard heritage, her indigenous heritage, again with the Zapoteca dress, and uses pre-Columbian symbols to show this. As Helen states, Aztec imagery of a wounded heart shows someone searching for their pain. Additionally, researcher Anderson, in his journal of Frida Kahlo, states that. Hold on, give me a second. She acknowledges these two identities. It's not Creole, it's not Native, it's Mestizo. For anyone who doesn't know, Mestizo means someone who comes from European and indigenous descendants. She depicts both of these identities by overlaying the pre-Columbian symbols as well as European symbols and the connection of a bloodline together without mixing these identities together. Additionally, Frida shows her political opinions, which is a part of her legacy. In 1926, there is an article that states Frida Kahlo, in 1926, Jacoby, who wrote an article, states that Frida Kahlo joined the Communist Party, depicting that showing that she not only depicted political stuff in her artwork, but also acted on it. Another example being that in a journal, Helen wrote that Frida protested in Guatemala against U.S.'s intervention 11 days before she died. Frida Kahlo died in July of 1954. Even though she was bedridden at this time and she had amputated her leg due to contracting gangrene, that never stopped her from being a very valiant woman and living her life to the fullest. Her legacy. As a part of her legacy, Frida Kahlo is now immortalized in the Chicano culture. As in the article, Durant writes that the Chicano movement immortalized her, included her, because they saw her as a person who stood up for workers' rights and was very proud of her Mexican identity. That related to a lot of, Mexican American people. And this is why she continues to be talked about even to the present time. In conclusion, Frida's adolescence of getting severely hurt and injured never stopped her from painting and exploring her identity. Her experience and emotional state reflects that through her artwork. She shows her identity and speaks on her political opinions, as well as representing all of that. She movements have deeply resonated with her and keep her image alive. Frida Kahlo transformed her chronic pain and emotions into artwork that shows her resilience, her heritage, and political legacy formed from the Chicana movement that immortalized her. Thank you for listening. I hope this makes you want to research your own artists and look further into their lives, as well as take a note from Frida Kahlo's life.